Should we go for it? We'll jump straight in. I know some kids are going out, but why not? Why not? I want to give us time at the end to worship and respond as well. Right, we are doing, is it on there? Hey, we're doing we're finishing Romans 12. We've had 3 weeks on Romans 12. This is 9 to 21, quite a big chunk. I've called it the mark of a true Christian. At the bottom, all you need is love. Why? Well, let's read. We're going to read through it. It's the next 2 slides. This should be on there for you so you can read along with me while I read. I'm reading from the NLT. Don't just pretend to love others. Really love them. Hate what is wrong. Hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Always be eager to practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Don't curse them. Pray that God will bless them. Be happy with those who are happy and weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with each other. Don't be too proud to enjoy the company of ordinary people, and don't think you know it all. Never pay back evil with more evil. Do things in such a way that everyone can see you're honorable. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. Dear friends, never take revenge. Leave that to the righteous anger of God. For the scriptures say, I will take revenge. I will pay them back, says the Lord. Instead, if your enemies are hungry, feed them. If they're thirsty, give them something to drink. In doing this, you'll heap burning coals of shame on their heads. Don't let evil conquer you, but conquer evil by doing good. Right, next slide, please. Lots of that. It's a bit like when we used to watch COVID, isn't it? Next slide, please. Although it's very different, thankfully. A lot better time. So I like the NLT simply because I've got a study Bible in that translation. If I had a different translation, study Bible, I'd use that. But I like the NLT, and I'll tell you why. One of the reasons is that the different translations have got names for these passages. And I looked through. So the NIV was love in action. That's quite nice. The NLT was love and its manifestations. I like that one. And I really like the ESV, the mark of a true Christian. The reason I like them is that when I first found out these were the verses I was doing, I was thinking about a title. They're a lot better than what I came up with. Because what I came up with was, love others, don't just pretend. Okay. I came up with a guide to be nice to others. Kind of. Like everyone, all the time, regardless of their actions or your mood. It's impossible. It sounds silly, but the thing is, I put them in because they are kind of close to the point, especially when we read them for the first time. It's a bit like saying, you need to be nice to everyone. It goes deeper than that. The last couple of weeks, we've had John. We've had David speak to us at the early part of Romans 12. They've both John started with a really good analogy, and David built on it, talking about local football team. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about football. Forget why, don't worry about the reasons why I'm not going to talk about football. What John said 2 weeks ago, it's easy to wear the shirt when everyone else is. When you're winning, when you're playing well, or when there's 30,000 of you all wearing the same shirt. What God is again giving us an example of in these verses is we need to wear the shirt when it's not easy, as well as when it is. So we should love everyone. Now, I don't know about you. The word impossible came up. People are not always the easiest to love. I work in a school. I'm a teacher, which means I have some face time with parents and particularly family members who are interesting, let's say, because some of them you can never please. There will always be something to complain about. Now, this isn't me having a dig. Any parents who go in who are concerned. Concerned parents, concerned family, I get it. I'm a parent. However, not everything needs complaining about. So what I do is my attitude is to be in the okay zone. If they like me, great. Most of the time they do. I just don't want to be the one that they're complaining about or to. Be in the okay zone. Quick conversation, see you later. I'm pretty successful at this. My issue is that these verses, as I'm reading them, is telling me not to be okay with everyone. It's telling me I've got to love them, I've got to care for them, and I've got to support them in all ways that I can. So a couple of Fridays ago, we had the first of our mini heat waves. This was a time to put a brave face on. Why? Well, because this was a chance for parents to complain about the weather. I'll tell you now, I can't control the weather. The kids are in, brilliant. That was my attitude. If they're in, I'm happy. And I'll tell you why, because this was the day where they tested the school dress code. First child comes in. She's in sandals today. Her feet were swelling in the shoes. I'm not having her complain all weekend. I think she was surprised when I went, that's fine. Obviously, it breaks policy for health and safety with her toes, but you know what? She's in. She might scuff her toes outside. Oh, no, I don't mind that. Perfect. If you're happy, she's in. Come on, in you come. Okay, great. Happy parent, that's good. Second one, she's refusing to wear a school top. It's making her sweat, so I sent her in a vest. I mean like a white tank top. Bit odd. Again, this looking for a fight. So when I go, she's in. Well done. Well done, Mum. Just defeat it. Okay, she's in. I don't mind it. It's a bit strange, but we're there. About 4 or 5 parents later. He's not comfortable in his school clothes. It's too hot. I've got him in, though. I didn't even look at the child. Well done. Thank you. Brilliant. See you later. Child goes in. It's not till I go into the classroom I realise that the child is not in school uniform, but a bright green Nike tracksuit. And when I say tracksuit, I mean trousers and a jumper. I thought it'd be like board shorts and a T-shirt. You know, it's hot. Why are they in more clothes than they would have been? Don't worry. They're in. It's fine. I'm not doing this to badmouth these parents. I really aren't. I'm really not. They got their kids to school. I applaud them because they're in school with me for the day. It just strikes me that I'm the establishment in that conversation. They've come in looking for that fight, ready to defend their honor that they can send their kids. And I'm there saying, it's fine. It's okay. You're in. Well done. How can I help you? That's hard, but I feel like I did it okay. The best one, though, home time, 2 parents having a bit of a to-do, bit of an argument. So as I do, I kind of wander out. Can I help in any way? Can I calm it down? The school dress code coming up again. It was causing all sorts of frustrations. I'm like, school dress code, I heard those words, not a problem. 2 minutes later, those parents have left. Happy, have a good weekend, enjoy the rest of the sun. Whew, done my job. I get it. They'd had 2 minutes chewing my ear off about school dress code and they left happy. I can give 2 minutes, right? Problem was, they were talking about the school dress code of the secondary school down the road. The one I don't work at, so I had my ear chewed off about a dress code that I don't even have to follow. Next one, please. So, in our verses, back to what we're talking about here, Paul is he's giving us different bits of advice in this passage. They're not in a neat logical order. He fires off at different points and he kind of goes here, then back to here, then down here. But they all come under this umbrella of sincere love. In a world that's got enough problems, anger, hate, judgment, Paul is showing the early church how we're to love. And there's definitely a link to the modern world and the modern church as well, something that we can take from this. So what he does is he begins inside the church. He begins with us, the people sat here, and he starts in verse 10 by saying, love each other with genuine affection. This literally translates to brotherly love, hence why the Chuckle Brothers appear. The key Greek word is the phrase, and it means love of family. So he's telling us, those of us inside the church, that we are called to be part of God's family. And a healthy family finds a mutual love and a commitment to each other. That's where we're going to start with. Then we go to verse 13. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Always be eager to practice hospitality. Now, this initially reads like you're called to be someone who does things for others. I'm going to say this. We are blessed with some amazing, gifted people in our church who are so generous with their money and their time. And I'm not going to say but. It sounds like I'm going to say but. I'm not. Actually, what I'm going to say is if that's you, you're a blessing to me, you're a blessing to others. what I'm going to say is, what about those people who don't have the material means? What about you who doesn't have the time because we've got busy lives? Or money's really tight. I'd love to bless someone, but I don't have the funds. Well, Paul uses a verb. Now, I'm going to try my best to do a Ben impression here. He uses the word koinonia. It translates to fellowship. I'm not going to do the language lesson, but entering into fellowship with brothers and sisters in Christ is essential, and everyone can do it because it could be prayer. It could be a support. It could be lending an ear. It could be offering solutions as a church family. One of my favorite elements of The Lord of the Rings is that it's a team that's assembled to destroy the ring. There are some mild spoilers here for a film that's 2 decades old, just so we're clear. Now, why I like it so much is that because in the first film, the Fellowship of the Ring, these 9 here, physically last half a movie. And then they are separated and disbanded, as in broken up. And yet, 2 films later, the end of the trilogy, right near the end of the 3rd film, all appears lost, but the fellowship is still there. They're not together. They're in different parts of the world at this point, split up, but the actions of each member of the fellowship actually leads to this great victory. They achieve their goal. And then, even better, the bit that gets the people watching it, is they greet each other with this deeper connection. It's like a family bond that crosses race and culture and age. That's what we're called to. Whether we're physically together here or we're apart, we have a deeper bond that we're called to kind of grow and cultivate. Next one, back to the Bible. Again, we then jump to verse 15 and 16. So he's kind of going inside the Bible. He uses the Greek word phroneo, which translates as think. Paul is advising the church on Christian thinking when it comes to this relationship that we have in God and in church. He says, live in harmony. We're called to think the same things. That's why we meet. That's why we share life, because we've got the same goals together. We're thinking the same things. And he also says, don't be too proud. Don't think you know more, that you know better. Don't think arrogant things. Think this good stuff. Let's not think this stuff. Get rid of that. We don't need it. So we talk about inside the church, and then we go, well, it's not just, we don't all together all the time. We're not like a cult. We're called to go out into the world. So then what happens is, how do we love people outside the church? And then we go back to verse 14. So we go back to verse 14. So we've kind of gone through it, and then it goes back. And sincere love isn't just reserved for those of us Christians inside the church. Paul doesn't directly refer to the Gospels here. There's a massively alludes to Jesus and his teaching. In verse 14, he says, bless those who persecute you. Don't curse them. Pray that God will bless them. It's a big link to the Sermon on the Mount, some of Jesus' most famous teaching. It's likely that this was well known, so Paul doesn't have to reference it. He's highlighting it, though. And highlighting Jesus, never a bad thing. In Matthew 5, verse 44, Jesus said, but I say, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. It's the same in Luke 6. And in those sermons, Jesus was referencing the persecution that was happening to the Jewish people. And like a parent or a teacher, Jesus is saying, 2 wrongs don't make a right. I don't know about you, but living in Arnold, the persecution we face is quite different. And there are definitely places in the world where extreme persecution is happening. We pray and stand with our brothers and sisters in those times. But even here in Arnold, where as a Christian, it's okay, it's relatively comfortable, it's worth pointing out that the world's already got enough problems, anger, hate, judgment. I don't need to throw my own in as well. I need to do what Jesus has very simply put for us. It should be easier as well than living 2,000 years ago in Rome and other places. Do I find it easy to love others though? No, I do not. And I'll tell you why. I titled this anecdote Road Rage. I know as soon as I say those words, there are two types of people. There are the people who are going, I hear you, brother. There are the other people who are looking at their partner or friend going, mm-hmm. But let me explain. I've actually developed a new kind of road rage. I sound proud of myself. I'm not. But we have to. See, driving through Nottingham, it's hard at times, especially in traffic. I've actually become a pretty relaxed driver. I've got better, certainly. I've certainly started to hold my tongue more. And I think the last few months and years driving to work and back, and that's particularly when it is, I have actually got better. That's a good thing. My wife is proud. So I put all this newfound energy and time into a new kind of road rage, wheelchairs. I'm going to be more specific here. I don't mean the people in the wheelchairs. I mean other people when you're in or pushing a wheelchair. See, Disneyland Paris was great. There's the silhouette of my two kids. We'd been waiting for 2 years because of lockdowns and cancellations. It was amazing to finally take them with my mum and my family. It was great for the kids, at least. It was great that Joe got to go and see some shows, and that was what I wanted for my family. But it was chaotically busy. I mean, there were so many people, far too many people for a place, even if COVID wasn't a thing. There was just too many. What really helped was my mum was in a wheelchair. Now, she's recovering from a femur injury, broken leg, so she hired this wheelchair, and it actually helped us to dodge a lot of the queues and a lot of the waiting. That's a bonus. If you can do that, if you ever go to somewhere that's busy, like a theme park, if you can dodge queues, if you can get a wheelchair, do it, trust me. And it kept me in shape. I was the chief wheelchair pusher. My sister's got a 1-year-old baby, and I think, you know what, it's good. We're not eating massively healthily, so pushing a wheelchair is good for you. What you realize when you're pushing a wheelchair is that people don't think when they're walking, because the amount of times that someone would just like nip in front of the wheelchair just to get in front of it, and then almost have their leg caught by the front of it. And they wouldn't even notice. And it would force me to slow down or even swerve a couple of times. One time I swerved into like this little monorail track and I was stuck for a minute with this little wheel trying to lift it out. Well, the saying, it's your ankles, went from being a mutter under my breath to me actually saying it out loud a couple of times. I'm really glad most of them were French people who didn't understand me because I was going to shout it. And it wasn't until I caught myself almost purposely ramming and obliterating this person's ankle. I caught it mainly because either my 1-year-old nephew or my daughter Ellie was sitting on my mum's lap. And so I was thinking, oh, that's that close. It was when I caught myself, I realized, oh no, the road rage has got me here. And it's so easy to judge. Tim Keller once said, if we're judged at the end of time by just our own standards that we hold others to, we'd all fail. It's condemning. Thankfully, it's not what we're destined for. Because how many times have I nipped in front of a wheelchair to get 2 seconds ahead? I can tell you countless. My ankles deserve more. Next one. And then we jump to verse 18. Paul tells us to do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. And actually what Paul does here is he recognizes this isn't easy. What he's suggesting, it's not. Our efforts to live in peace with others, this can be frustrating. We've got moral convictions. We've got constraints. It doesn't match theirs. It doesn't match those living in the world. And actually often their unwillingness to respond to us positively. This message of love can still be seen or heard as an attack in some ways if we don't get it right. And then Paul quotes Deuteronomy, and it reminds us very simply, leave the judgment to God. Revenge is a nasty thing to hold on to. He says never, it means never. You see, God judges with a righteous anger. And actually often our anger, it's unrighteous. Our thoughts and actions, They're not at the same level. And as an alternative, Paul doesn't just leave us with that. He then quotes Proverbs 25. He says, if your enemies are hungry, feed them. If they're thirsty, give them something to drink. In doing this, you'll heap burning coals of shame on their heads. I quite like that last bit, because if you're dealing with someone who, I love this person, but they're on my wick, you can just picture burning coals being poured on their heads. But actually what he's saying is we shouldn't meet someone being confrontational, bringing problems and anger with the same thing. And we shouldn't do nothing. We should respond with a simple act of kindness back. And a simple act of kindness can often bring a hostile person closer to God, whether they realize it or not. And it can restore fellowship between people. Because we're not just called to fellowship here. We want more people adding to this family. A guy called George Poynton on Twitter, he's quite a funny guy, but he's got a class of 6-year-olds. And what he does is he asks them a question. He asks these 6-year-olds a question about life. And then what he does, he says the answers and he offers this really in-depth analysis. 6-year-olds will just say anything. And he's very funny. And I think this is real. He does have a class. But what he did once, and I just find this a bit of fun, but what he did is he asked the class the question, how can adults become happy? How can adults become happier? And what happened in this thread of tweets that was all silly fun is it became very profound. Because in it, you had answers like, the kids would say, don't think about clowns. Fine. Hug things with floppy ears. Fine. Again, assuming it's dogs and rabbits, not foxes. Fine. Things like smile at ducks. There's no scientific evidence for that, but smiling at people, it's always a good thing. You might elicit a nice response. But then there were things like find something you love. There were things like dancing lessons, painting, fishing. And there was one kid who said buried treasure. Now, he might just really like pirates, but the response that this guy, who's not a Christian, gave was, maybe this is a metaphor for dreams and desires we've buried deep within us. And I thought, and the conversation that happened was people were thinking, how can we make each other happier? And it was a really genuinely nice interaction. It made me smile. But how can we make each other happier? How can we bring a bit of joy to this world? Jesus said it, the Beatles said it, it must be true. All you need is love. Band, come back up as we're finishing, please. We're going to jump all the way back to verses 11 and 12. And what it says in verse 11 and 12, this is right at the start, not at the end, but it says, never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. Just like those titles the Bible uses. Turns out they're cleverer than me. Those titles in the different translations make sense. We're called to put love into action. We're called to manifest love out of ourselves. We're called to wear the mark of a Christian. Romans 12, then, what's it taught us? It's taught us that we've got a confident hope. God has transformed us into his image. We are pleasing, we are perfect. This has been done. It's not being done, it's been done. And more than that, God then lavishes us with gifts, as David shared last week. Some are obvious, others less so. But all of those gifts are a blessing to others. They are good, and they will bless others. Now, this isn't a message about let's be nicer to people. We can all have off days. Then maybe we need to smile more and grumble less. Fine. But Paul's reminding us of God's truth, of Jesus' message. Love everyone. We should aspire to reach the levels that God loves his people. They are lofty heights, but let's aim that high. And also, if you didn't know, sitting here this morning, who his people are, it's you. Whether you realize it or not, you're his people. This is for you. We're to love the church like family, like brothers and sisters. We're to love the world without judgment or condemnation. The band are about to play, but we're going to respond, if possible. First of all, I'm going to pray for 3 things. So if you can, stand, please, because Joel's going to start up any second, but he's going to play quietly to start with. So I can talk about the three things I'm about to pray for. Then what we're going to do, the band are going to play, but during that first song, a couple of people are going to go to the back for us. We're doing this, making it as a habit. It's a really good thing. Those people are there for you to respond to in a different way. If you need to get yourself up and think, do you know what, God? Yes, I want that today. If anything that's been said helps, or if there's something else that is being pressed onto you, respond. It might be that you actually quietly respond where you are. That's fine. I'm going to pray for three things. I'm going to pray for sincere love to radiate out of each of us. And then a few more things as I pray. Father, thank you so much that as we've worked our way through Romans, not just 12 the last few weeks, but all of it, all the things that are being brought up, there are simple truths that we cannot escape. And one today is that you love us and that you give us the gifts and the abilities and the power to go and show love to everyone else. And I pray this morning with that sincere love just radiate out of us. Father, this morning I pray part of your transformation in us is that we get a heart transplant where we gain your love. Our heart breaks for things that yours breaks for, that you love. I pray this morning for people in here. Would you be breaking our hearts for things that you love, for people in our community? And Father, I pray for fellowship in this room, amongst us in this church family. I pray for those who need to know that you are the King, the Prince of Patience, the Prince of Peace, that with you we can continue loving those even in really hard situations. And I pray would you be growing that fellowship this morning between those of us who've been friends for a very long time and have got a really deep bond already, but also would you be developing those bonds now anew, afresh, with people who've had one conversation, helping us to go into fellowship together.
Separate, even if I ran away, your love never fails. I know I still make mistakes, but you have new mercies for me every day. Your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. Strong and the water's deep. I'm not alone here in these open seas. Your love never fails. The chasm is far too wide. I never thought I'd reach the other side. Your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. And you stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never